Thank you, Ed. I've got to run soon because I'm due in Litchfield at 4 o'clock for the symphony, but I do want to take a quick look at current events in the context of what we've been working on for 307 straight weeks. 60 weeks ago, at our rally number 247 on February 16, 2025, from my opening remarks that day, it's February of 2025, I said a few words about our country 4 weeks into a new presidential administration. Administration so far, in those 4 weeks, characterized by cruelty, chaos, and corruption. I said, we'll speak a lot about this in future rallies, but so what? I talked about how that none of that chaos, cruelty, and corruption was consistent with Justice Southbury's vision of a more fair and kind community for all. He said that so far, at least in that first month, the administration was not fair, not kind, not nurturing community, and certainly not for all. At that point I said, so what are we going to do about it? What is the path forward? What's our way out of the cruelty and the corruption and the chaos? I asked whether the Constitution would hold. I predicted the Congress would not. Already we'd seen things from Elon Musk that suggested that the Congress was going to be neutered. I asked whether the courts would save us from the chaos, cruelty, and corruption. So that I thought so, and at least to some extent, but to be determined. Would the press hold? Well, one of the things that's happened with the press, there's less press now, or there's more press that's controlled by a few. So, again, to be determined. I suggested that it was going to be up to the public to work against the chaos, cruelty, and corruption. I said we needed to speak truth to power, show up, speak up, lean in, don't give up, get up. That was 60 weeks ago. It was a month into that administration. In the past 60 weeks, the cruelty has snowballed. ICE shootings. Shut up, piggy. A whole civilization will die tonight. In the past 60 weeks, the chaos has snowballed. Doge. Mass deportation of the worst, including local business people and uniformed military and military wives and a 19-year-old Cheshire student and a 5-year-old boy with a bunny hat and a backpack. The chaos, punishment of allies with erratic tariffs and threats to take territory and resources. And now, a war on Iran with the lack of thought and care and lack of reliance on expertise, which is so characteristic of this administration. So many of the things that have happened in Iran have been operationally brilliant, but strategically lost. In the past 60 weeks, the corruption has snowballed. From items that seem a little more harmless, but which still corrode the egalitarian standards that we'd like to set out for our country, such as renaming everything from an iconic cultural center in D.C. along the Potomac for the Cultural Center for the Arts to an Institute for Peace, naming these after a living person who's the opposite of arts and the opposite of peace. The corruption to the transactions of cryptocurrencies and foreign investment, which enrich the leader of our country and his family and friends at the literal expense of the rest of us. None of this is consistent with a commitment to love your neighbor. None of this is consistent with Justice Southbury's vision of a more fair and kind community for all. None of this is consistent with the core American values set forth in our nation's founding documents. None of this is consistent with basic human values. This week, writer Andrew Sullivan wrote about Pope Leo, saying, quote, "This is surely Pope Leo's unspoken role to remind the world that America is not all about power, selfishness, and money, and that however much we may disagree on policy, we must not sacrifice our defense of the equal dignity of every human soul." End quote. Which is why people keep showing up on local street corners like this, at No Kings rallies, at off-year elections and mid-year elections. The only way to end the cruelty and chaos and corruption is to persistently resist. Resist, persist. To stand up and show up and speak up. 2 weeks ago, our Zoom speaker, Professor Lindsay Cormack, discussed her book, called How to Raise a Citizen, subtitled, And Why It's Up to You to Do It. It is up to us to do it. So thank you for continuing to do it.